Good morning, class. Welcome to finals week. I hope you all had a fantastic semester and that your exams aren't going too poorly. Hopefully you're all going to do well. So I want to take a minute just to thank you guys for all your hard work this semester. You were all very engaged, especially given that this is an online class. I was really impressed with how connected you all were, both with me and with your groups and things like that. And so, well done on that account. That can be one of the hardest things about an online class is to stay engaged. So you guys did really well. So I want to talk about our final thing here now that we're into finals week. So you'll see that we have one more project. It's called Project 5, the reflection letter. Now this is very similar to your midterm reflection in that I'm just asking you to think about your progress that you've made throughout the course of the year. So what this means is I will have you reflect on kind of your expectations coming into the class, what you got out of the class, things like that. And this will be a way for you just to talk about your own process, your own progress, and to kind of measure what it is you learned this semester or what you worked on this semester. And so let's take a look at the prompt. And just real quick, I want you to treat this as very first person, very narrative, very reflective. So, the first person is totally appropriate here. So in this letter, your goal will be to reflect on the work you've completed throughout the course of the semester. In other words, you're being asked to think and write about your research and writing practices. A good way to begin framing your reflection letter is to think through the following questions. Now, you certainly don't have to answer all these questions, but these are the ones that if you do answer, these are the kind of things that I'm looking for. So number one, prior to this class, what did I know about writing and researching my discipline? Number two, when enrolling in this course, what did I want to learn about writing and researching my discipline? Number three, what did I actually learn? Number four, how is my own writing and research practices, how have my own writing and research practices changed? Number five, what have I learned, or how does what I learned connect to the 30-10 outcomes? So reading, writing, research, and reflection. What have you learned in regard to those categories? And so when we're talking about writing and research and practices, especially for number four, these are the kind of things we're thinking about. Feel free to discuss any of these practices or others in your essay. In order to organize and connect the letter to our course in the most productive way possible, you'll use these. You'll use our outcomes to guide your reflection. So, reading, writing, research, reflection. Try to touch on each one of those in your reflection. This doesn't mean that your letter can or even should reference the entirety of each learning objective. Instead, choose one or two specific items from each that align most directly with your own experiences. And so, when you're thinking about research, writing, reading, and reflection, just talk about one or two things that you've done this semester that helped you improve in those areas. So what's one or two things that you did to develop your critical reading skills? What's one or two things you did to develop your writing, revision strategies, research strategies, reflection, stuff like that. So here's the actual prompt. I want you to spend time drafting a 4+ page, double-spaced obviously, reflective letter describing to me in detail how the course helped to produce changes in your knowledge, skills, and practices as evidenced by the writing and research you've completed. Letters should be addressed to me, so dear Mr. Shumway, and while they are formatted as letters, they should be formal in both tone and structure. So what that means basically is use complete sentences, use complete paragraphs, grammar rules apply. Okay. So you may choose to emphasize whatever skills you want. Keep in mind the objective letter following the guidelines must be met. So these must be met. Number one, so these are the must-haves in order to get full credit for this. Make a direct reference to at least 2 of the projects you wrote this semester, one of which has to be the formal research proposal / lit review. So you have to talk about 2 of your projects. And what I mean by that is I want you to look at 2 of your projects, one of which is your lit review / proposal, and use evidence from your essay to support what you're saying. So what I mean by that is, let's say you want to talk about how your research skills have improved in various ways. I want you to pull a quote out or a paraphrase out of your lit review, for example, that shows me an example of you improving your research skills. Or, and so what that means is you might say, throughout the course of the semester, I developed my skills at being able to use research in my writing. For example, in my lit review, I had to, analyze a lot of quotes. Here's me doing this thing. Okay, so just show me an example of you doing what you're talking about. So any project you want for the first one, and then the second one that you reference has to be from your lit review or research proposal. You may also reference any informal writing or class assignments we've done, so blogs, stuff like that. And what I want you to do to cite that is literally just write, in the comments, it would just be, parentheses, or not in the comments, but like after the quote from your essay, parentheses, project 4, parentheses, project 1, whatever it is. Okay, so that's number 1. Number 2, have a clear goal for the reflection. In other words, be clear about what you feel you've achieved and how the work you've done in 3010 has produced changes in your writing and research. It is usually best to specifically show how you will use the skills from this course to successfully work in other courses. Remember, it's not enough to simply claim you learned how to do something. You must provide evidence. Okay, so what this means is, so in your introduction, I want you to set out a clear goal. In this class, I did X, Y, and Z. The essay will show you doing X, Y, and Z by pulling examples from 1 or 2 of your projects. And then in the conclusion, talk about how X, Y, and Z will carry over into other classes or other parts of your life, things like that. Number 3, letters should use disciplinary formatting. So again, APA, MLA, Chicago, whatever is appropriate for your discipline. The body paragraphs of the letters should be organized into 4 sections, focusing on each of the learning outcomes. So again, we're going to have, these are your sections: read, write, research, reflection. Workshop your paper with your peers. So obviously that was more for a in-class version of this class, so we won't be workshopping those clearly. Okay, so those are your objectives. So number 1, so just kind of walking you through this in your introduction, lay out exactly what you learned or did this semester. In the body of your essay, you will organize it into these 4 categories because these are our learning outcomes, and you will pull examples from 2 of our projects that show how you've improved in each category. And then at the final and the conclusion, you'll talk about how these skills will help you in the future. So that's all we're looking for. Again, there's really no wrong answers here. Whatever you feel like is appropriate in terms of your growth, your evidence, stuff like that is fine. So as long as you're pulling evidence out of your essays, you're good to go. So make sure you're doing those things. Feel free to email me if you have questions. You'll notice that the deadline for this is open between Wednesday and Friday, so get it in any time between then. I'd prefer them on Wednesday, that way I can turn around and get you guys your grades faster, but if you need till Friday, that's fine. And let me know if you have questions. All right, guys, thank you for a wonderful semester, and I will talk to you later.